Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a case that has certainly dominated headlines and sparked just widespread discussion. That's the recent verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Our insights for this deep dive, they come from some really detailed reports by E! News and NBC News. We're drawing directly from court proceedings, legal statements, that kind of thing. And our mission, well, it's really to go beyond those headlines, pinpoint the crucial details, and try to understand the intricate legal and personal narratives that unfolded here.
Yeah, and what's truly compelling, I think, is how this story, which has been, developing for months, it reached this really pivotal moment on July 2nd, 2025, with a pretty complex verdict. The jury found Sean Diddy Combs guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. That's the Mann Act. But, and this is key, not guilty on the more severe charges of racketeering and sex trafficking.
Right.
So that begs the question, how did we arrive at this specific outcome? What legal distinctions might have influenced that jury's decision? And, well, what do the testimonies and evidence actually reveal about these different charges?
That's a crucial distinction. Can you maybe elaborate a bit on what specifically differentiates those 3 charges? The Mann Act, racketeering, and sex trafficking, and why the jury might have found the evidence, well, sufficient for one but not the others.
Absolutely. Okay, so the Mann Act, at its core, it criminalizes transporting individuals across state lines for illicit sexual activity. It's really about the act of movement for that specific purpose.
Okay. Transportation.
Exactly. Now, racketeering, that's a much broader charge. It's about operating an illegal enterprise through a pattern of criminal activity. Think organized crime.
Right, like Ryoko.
Precisely. And sex trafficking, that typically implies force, fraud, or coercion for commercial sex acts, often over a sustained period, and usually, for some kind of financial gain or benefit to the traffickers. So for the jury to convict on the Mann Act, they likely found enough evidence of that transportation across state lines with the intent for prostitution.
Got it.
But for racketeering or sex trafficking convictions, the prosecution needed to prove a more organized, ongoing criminal enterprise or a very clear pattern of force or coercion. It's a higher bar to meet, legally speaking.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. And with that understanding, let's maybe turn to the testimonies.
Yeah.
Because they were incredibly powerful and really formed the prosecution's case. The very first crack in the facade, you could say, which, according to Cassie Ventura's attorney, Douglas Wigdor, paved the way for this conviction. It came from her courage, her civil complaint that's a lawsuit seeking financial damages filed back in November 2023. That really seemed to open the brief for these criminal proceedings.
It really did.
She testified about this decade-long, on-again, off-again relationship with Combs, spanning from 2007 to 2018. And her account was, well, chilling. She claimed he controlled a lot of my life, whether it was career, sex, everything. She spoke of constant fear, unpredictability. She specifically said it was always in the back of my mind that I would somehow be hurt by him.
That's powerful testimony.
Yeah, and you also shared details about alleged hundreds of freak-offs she participated in, and these incredibly disturbing text messages where she actually wrote to Combs, quote, "You dragged me down the hall by my hair. I'm 30 years old. This isn't play anymore. I felt like I was dead last night."
Gosh, and Cassie's account, it really established this chilling pattern. And what's particularly striking is how similar experiences then emerged from others. Jane, another ex-girlfriend, she testified that Cassie's lawsuit felt, well, eerily like her own sexual trauma. She actually wrote to Combs, this came out in testimony, "I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma. I am sick. It's exactly word for word, drug-filled days and nights." So you can see how Ventura's experience resonated, maybe influencing others to step forward.
Absolutely.
Jane went on to describe these harrowing hotel nights, some allegedly lasting 3 to 3.5 days. She recounted using ecstasy, caffeine, water, and protein shakes just to stay awake through them.
3.5 days.
That's what she testified. She even recalled one instance where she threw up 3 times without taking drugs during one of these hotel nights involving multiple men. The physical toll she described was severe weekly UTIs, yeast infections.
Oh, my goodness.
And in one particularly disturbing detail, she alleged forced participation in a hotel night on her birthday. Despite her objections, she said Combs gave her a dirty look for just asking for a condom.
A dirty look for asking for a condom. That's
Right.
In Jane's testimony, it didn't stop there, did it? She went on to detail even more disturbing allegations, things that painted this picture of just deep control and alleged physical abuse. That's right.
This included a so-called love contract where Combs reportedly paid her $10,000 a month for rent and an allowance.
A transactional element, essentially.
Exactly. And she testified about his specific request for her to get her nipples pierced, and then his displeasure when she removed them because they got infected,
Yeah.
allegedly saying, "Where are my piercings? This is the last time I see you when you don't have any piercings on."
Wow, the level of alleged control.
It's intense. And the allegations escalated even further. Claims of an hours-long beating in June 2024, where she stated he kicked her, put her in a chokehold, left her with golf ball-sized welts and a black eye. And then, as their relationship deteriorated, she alleged threats from Combs. Threats to release sex tapes showing her heavily drugged to her baby's father.
Just horrific allegations. And given the gravity of these testimonies, the sheer volume of disturbing details from both Ventura and Jane, it really leads us to consider the trial itself and the defense's approach.
Right.
Combs himself, he did not testify. He told the judge it was solely his decision not to.
The prosecution's closing arguments, though, delivered by Christy Slavic, they were particularly impactful. Slavic argued Combs used power, violence, and fear to get what he wanted. And she characterized the alleged assaults on both women as chapters in the same book, the story of Sean Combs and the criminal enterprise he led.
Connecting them directly.
Directly. She really emphasized the alleged control, stating he doesn't take no for an answer. It was his kingdom. Everyone was there to serve him.
Yeah. And what's fascinating here is the evidence they presented. Apparently 50 explicit videos from 2021 and 2022 were entered into evidence. Key excerpts from 2 files were actually shown to the jurors.
Explicit videos shown in court.
Yes. And then there was the discovery of hotel rooms stocked with, get this, 20 bottles of baby oil and Plan B pills requested by Combs in voicemails left for his former chief of staff. That became a powerful piece of sort of circumstantial evidence.
Suggesting preparation. Exactly. It wasn't just about the acts themselves, but about the alleged creation of an environment designed for these kinds of prolonged, maybe non-consensual encounters. It suggests a chilling level of premeditation and control, arguably.
And there was drug testimony too, right?
Yeah. We heard from his former assistant, Brendan Paul. He detailed purchasing a whole range of illicit drugs, marijuana 2C. That's a synthetic psychedelic you often hear about in party scenes. Cocaine, ketamine, ecstasy, all for Combs. Painting this picture of an environment where substance abuse was just, well, prevalent.
Okay, so that's the prosecution side. What about the defense during all this?
Well, during this intense period, the defense filed 2 motions for a mistrial. Both were denied. They argued there was perjured testimony related to an alleged incident on a balcony involving someone named Brianna Bongolan.
Right, denied motions.
And the cross-examination of Jane. That was particularly dramatic. At one point, after being questioned about luxury goods she'd allegedly received, she famously turned to the defense attorney and asked, "How much does my body cost?"
Wow, that moment really just underscores the raw intensity inside that courtroom. And the trial's drama wasn't just confined to the testimonies, was it? Even outside the courtroom, you had figures like Kanye West making an unexpected appearance, visiting the overflow area, apparently in support of Combs, which just highlights the public fascination, the spectacle around this case.
Absolutely, a spectacle.
And then within the jury itself, the immense pressure of a 29-day trial, it led to some unusual challenges, like a sick juror with vertigo causing a whole day's adjournment.
That delayed things.
And another juror facing possible dismissal for an alleged improper conversation about the case with a former colleague. The judge actually had to question them, inspect their phone. These incidents, they really highlight the immense pressure and scrutiny surrounding such a high-profile case.
For everyone involved, yeah.
So, okay, we've reviewed the detailed allegations, the evidence presented, the legal arguments. What does this deep dive really tell us about understanding not just this case, but maybe the broader implications of these kinds of complex legal battles?
Indeed. I mean, we've definitely seen how a civil complaint can be the spark, right? The thing that ignites a much larger criminal investigation. And how these deeply personal stories shared in a courtroom can bring to light profound dynamics of alleged power and exploitation.
Yeah.
This deep dive, it's highlighted not just the specific legal outcomes, those Mann Act convictions, but the sheer volume of detailed allegations. And also the challenges faced by both the prosecution and the defense in these high-profile cases. And that distinction the jury made between the charges. That's particularly telling. It offers a glimpse, maybe, into the complexities of proving intent and patterns of behavior under different legal statutes.
This deep dive, it really makes you consider, doesn't it, the various layers of, truth and perception within a legal battle like this one. The specific verdict, guilty on those 2 counts of transportation, the Mann Act counts, but not on racketeering or sex trafficking. It prompts a lot of thought about the burden of proof, and the nuances of the law itself.
And this brings us to, I think, a really significant question. What does justice truly look like in cases of alleged long-term misconduct, especially when you have factors like power, immense wealth, and fame involved?
Yeah.
This deep dive, it forces us to consider the immense journey survivors undertake when coming forward, the rigorous, grueling process of a 29-day trial, and how these sort of abstract legal definitions actually translate into real-world accountability, or sometimes the lack thereof. The powerful reminder, I think, of the challenges inherent in pursuing these kinds of cases.
So as you, our listeners, reflect on all this information, consider this. Beyond the headlines, beyond the specific charges, what does this trial reveal about the ongoing, crucial conversation around consent, around power dynamics in relationships, and maybe the entertainment industry's responsibility in protecting those within its orbit?
Okay.
What steps might society need to take, or what conversations might we need to continue to better understand and address these really complex issues moving forward?